guys, Jonze Phillips here. Welcome to my May 3rd DVD update, where I talk about all the DVDs and Blu-rays I've gotten over the last 2 weeks or so. Like I always say, if you guys enjoy these updates, definitely give this video a thumbs up. Leave me comments below. Would love to hear what you thought about the titles I checked out. Let me know too any recent pickups you guys got. There's a whole lot of ones in this update, so there's going to be a longer one. It's a pretty big update. The first one is from Shout Factory, Scream Factory line, which is a really cool Clint Howard film. So I've always really liked this one. Like with me, when it comes to Clint Howard, I really like his horror movies, and I think a lot of people like the horror movies he's been in. He hasn't been in like tons and tons of them. He does more like a lot of more mainstream kind of stuff like that, but every so often he does a weird horror movie. One of his other best known one is Mr. Ice Cream Man, and it's this one is Evilspeak. And the one thing that's pretty cool about this edition is that this has the added gore to it, which was believed to have been lost for years. They didn't think they had it. They actually added it back in. So there's a whole bunch of different little snippets added back in. It's definitely way gorier than I remember, especially some of the stuff with the pigs and the bathtub scene, if you guys have seen the movie. The movie's basically about Clint Howard, who's his character, who's at this boarding school, and it's like a boarding school where it's like a military boarding school, and he's kind of picked on. He's on the soccer team. The kids are giving him all kinds of trouble. They really don't want him there. And he ends up discovering, when he gets in trouble, ends up getting on this duty to clean out the church basement. He ends up discovering this old book, which, he ends up summoning this demonic spirit, while he's trying to with this book, so he can get revenge on the students. So it's all kinds of him trying to summon this and what he ends up doing with the powers that he's trying to get from this book. You've seen the trailers, that's the gist of it, but he's doing it all through his computer. What was pretty cool was this is, made, I think it was 81, so it was really advanced with doing all this stuff with the computer. If you watch the interviews on here, Clint Howard was like, we didn't know what anything about computers, just pretending like we did. So it's kind of interesting that it's a very ahead of its time movie. On here, though, it has, like I said, has the brand new transfer with the added gore back in, commentary track, interviews with the cast and crew, and of course, Clint Howard interviews on here, which is my favorite ones because he had some really funny stories in this one. But this is a really, really cool one. Scream Factory, I love that he's putting out these kind of movies, especially giving them great Blu-ray transfers. And this is a really weird one. If you love Clint Howard, definitely have to watch this one. The next one is a slasher one that I don't think is as known, and it's Final Exam. And I couldn't remember if I'd seen this one before, back when it came out from Code Red. This is from Scream Factory as well, on DVD years back. I just couldn't remember. It has some really pretty cool kills in it, but it's a much more of a character study, character development slasher film than a whole lot of kills. It was kind of changing things up and trying to be a little bit different with the way it was a little bit slower, and that was kind of some of the complaints that people have with the film. I actually liked it. There was, especially the kill in the beginning when they ripped the guy out of the car, was pretty cool. You could tell though, it did take a while to get going, but it's basically about this college where it's, the final exams are coming up, and it's mainly focuses on this one girl and this guy who's kind of all paranoid, and he kind of is obsessed with the idea of people snapping and killing people, and kind of paranoid about like killers out there, and things are happening, and there's like these kids at the sorority guys playing this. The fraternity guy's playing this like shooting thing, which never could do in a movie now. And then he gets freaked out by it and calls the police. And it's pretty much about though this guy going around the school, sort of traipsing around, and people are dying off one by one. But like I said, it's a much slower movie. But it has some pretty cool music in it. I liked it though. Like I said though, it has some mixed opinions from people, but I liked it. It was a little bit different. I really did like the guy who was obsessed with horror movies, who was all nervous about things happening, and it really does have an interesting meaning to it. It has a brand new transfer on here as well, which looks really good. Both of these look well. Commentary, interviews with the cast and crew. I would definitely check this out. Like I said, it's a different type of slasher film, much more of a character development one. but really did enjoy it. I'm going to have a review soon, too, in the next update of Sleepaway Camp, which is one that I'm really excited to talk to you guys about. There's a bunch of Scream Factory ones coming out this summer. Final Terror, Ravenous, tons and tons, so definitely check out the site for them. The next one from Warner Brothers is the new Spike Jonze film, Her, which is, Joaquin Phoenix. This is set like in a futuristic world, in the future where, it's kind of like technology has really gotten to this extreme advanced point where you can talk to your phones, and not like just with like Siri and things like that, where it actually, you talk to it and it talks back to you, and you can have a conversation with the phone. And Joaquin Phoenix's character is this very depressed person who, has had very bad relationships problems and things like that, and ends up, putting on his phone this new operating system, which is, voiced by Scarlett Johansson. And it's pretty much about him falling in love with the operating system and talking to Scarlett Johansson and like taking, the phone and going places with the phone and with her. And it's a very different type of love story, and it's kind of a little like very trippy, weird movie. And weird because you could kind of see this kind of happening in the future. You could kind of see this going to this area where people could be doing things like this. And I could see phones, now I don't know about in the next 10 years, but in the near future, where you probably will be able to talk and they will be able to have a full conversation back with you. It has on here, though, a number of different features on here, a short film, and then talking about relationship in our times, and a featurette on here. But I really like Spike Jonze films. They always have kind of a weird vibe to them, but this was a really well done, well acted movie. And I thought Scarlett Johansson, through just doing the voice, did a really good job, though. If you haven't seen her in the film Under the Skin, though, her new one, though, it's a must watch. The next one from Warner Brothers as well. And I'm not going to lie, I don't know a ton about the show. I never really saw the show. I watched the movie. It was kind of hard to follow certain things about it. I would definitely say this is more for people who really know the show. But it's Veronica Mars, which is her character was a teen agent who, because they kind of have a recap on here, who ended up leaving the agency. She's like a private eye, ends up coming back, getting brought back, I think it's like 7 years later, brought back to, by her father to come back and investigate this case. And that's pretty much what it is. But the thing that I really liked about the movie, though, was a feature on here, because this movie was raised all through Kickstarter, and they have a whole feature in here following the whole making of the movie. And I think some people who don't know the show would love it just for that, because it's a really, really well done thing showing how they raised $2 million in less than a day. I think it was even more than that. And then they kind of show them, on the set, the people who backed the money, who came to be extras in the movie, going to Comic-Con, going to, the Comic-Con screenings of the movie and things like that. I really liked that. I thought that was a cool feature, and would love to see more things like that in the future for films, especially when they do it through Kickstarter. It's a very interesting way to raise the money, and it just kind of shows you that hopefully down the line they continue to do that with things to kind of test to see if there is enough interest to come out. But like I said, though, people who know the show are definitely going to want to check this out. But like I said, to me, I don't know a whole ton about the show, but really love that feature on there. The next one from Paramount, and this is one that I have always really liked. Haven't watched this movie in years. It was cool to watch it again. And I think it's one of these Steven Spielberg movies that I don't feel like it's talked about as much as some of his other ones. It's kind of like a movie that everybody liked when it came out, and then kind of got forgotten about a bit. It's Steven Spielberg's film The Terminal, which is about Tom Hanks. He's a foreigner coming from another country, and there's some kind of a problem with the country, and they're not letting him go back to he basically gets to the airport, and he's trapped. He's not allowed to go back. He's not allowed to leave the airport, and he ends up kind of living at the airport and kind of finding ways to survive there for all this time, becoming friends with all the people that work there, starting to like Catherine Zeta-Jones' character. It's really cool movie, and I really have always loved this movie. And the pretty cool thing about this movie was the airport was not a real airport. It was all built for the movie. So it was kind of like they had to hire people to fill all the stores, because in all the shots you could see for, in the food court and all this kind of stuff, that it wasn't it was, basically hiring for this whole airport. It was basically like getting employees for it. And that was a pretty cool aspect to this movie. This is a really good one of those feel-good movies. And like I said, I feel like this is one of those movies that kind of people have forgotten about. I think it came out in 2004, so it's 10 years old now. And I just feel like it's not one of those ones that people remember as much. But it's really good. And the next one, I don't know if I had ever seen these, or have not seen these in 20 years. But I had actually saw the third movie, which hopefully at some point comes out on Blu-ray as well. But I don't know if I had ever seen these movies before and really like them. And I think a lot of people like these movies though. And it's the double feature, the new Blu-ray of Crocodile Dundee and Crocodile Dundee 2. And these are really fun movies. It's Crocodile Dundee is a Australian guy who's kind of hunts crocodiles, and kind of like the Crocodile Hunter kind of was like him, but a real life version of him. And a newspaper writer ends up going to write a story on him in Australia, and it's kind of about them kind of becoming friends there, and her showing the side, him showing her what he does out there and how to live out there. And she invites him to come back to New York because she's sort of starting to like him. It's about him coming to New York and all the kind of things that happen, because he's only ever lived in the Australian outback. He's never ever been to the city. So it's about all kinds of issues that are happening, and him with the subway and riding in cabs and trying to figure things out and talking to people in the city. And it's just a fun, I don't know, I really enjoyed this. Like I said, I don't know if I've ever seen this before. I might have been like 5 or 6 as like a little kid when I saw this, but it's been years. It also has the second one as well, which is, I don't want to talk too much about the second one because it kind of spoils things from the first one. But I'm really glad these are out on Blu-ray, and hopefully I'm going to see a lot more older catalog titles from Paramount as well. The next one from Sony, and this is one that had some mixed opinions with reviews, and I saw this in theaters as well, and really thought this was a fun comedy. I liked the whole cast in this movie. Michael B. Jordan, who is in Fruitvale Station, Zac Efron, Miles Teller, who's been in tons of Spectacular Now, Divergent, tons of different things, and it's that awkward moment. This is pretty much about these 3 friends. And, Zac Efron's kind of guy who's kind of with all these different women, and he just got out of a relationship. Miles Teller cannot get in any relationship. He has no luck. And Michael B. Jordan was married, and he's just getting separated. And they all kind of come together and say that they're going to end up being single. And they're just going to kind of have fun. And, right when this happens, Zac Efron's character ends up meeting this girl that he really likes. And it's kind of about them all saying that they're going to do this, but then they're all kind of in their own love triangles. And Michael B. Jordan is kind of going back. I don't want to talk about too much about who they're with and everything like that, but it's kind of about them saying that they're not going to see any women, but yet at the same time they are, and they're kind of trying to hide it from each other, and kind of maybe the relationships are sort of suffering because they don't want them to know and kind of afraid to commit to them. But I thought this is a really cute, positive, fun movie. So I really, it's just one of those movies that I like these kind of movies. I guess they're not for everybody, but I liked it. I don't know why it had some negativity. I really don't see it, why it did. But it has on here gag reel, some behind the scenes. I would definitely recommend this. The next one is About Last Night, and hopefully I don't mix it up, with the other one. But About Last Night is from Sony as well. This is a remake of the 80s film, which I couldn't remember if I had ever seen the original, but this has Kevin Hart in it, and it's basically about these 2 friends and, about their kind of relationship things. Kevin Hart and both of them are kind of guys that go out to the club every night and always pretty much taking back women and having these one-night stands all the time. And Michael Ailey's character, Kevin Hart's friend in the movie, ends up meeting this one woman and really starting to like her. And it's kind of about their relationship and, for him, for the first time in years, getting serious with someone. And Kevin Hart, and he's with Regina Hall's character, and both of them are kind of yelling at each other the whole time. And that's kind of like all they do is yell at each other and have all kinds of fights the whole time and always fighting, getting back together and having all kinds of huge blowouts. And that's pretty much what it was. It's not a outstanding film. I thought it was pretty good for the most part, but not like an absolute outstanding. I always like Kevin Hart movies, but sometimes I like more of the silly ones more, like the ride along and those kind of ones a little bit more, because I think he's really good at comedy, like in Scary Movie 3 and those kind of ones. I really love him in more like funny comedies, but he's good though doing some more of drama, things like that. But I would recommend it though. It's like I said though, it's not absolutely great. I can't compare it to the original one because I had not seen that as far as I can remember. The next one from Sony as well is Bad Country, and this one was just alright. This was, yeah, it's basically about, and hopefully I can try and even explain this. It's William Dafoe as this cop who ends up, arresting Matt Dillon's character, and he's basically trying to. It's one of those movies when he's trying to get Matt Dillon to kind of talk to him to help bring down like the operation that he kind of works for. So it's one of those kind of ones. There's a lot of character actors in this one though that pop in. The one guy who was like has the super blonde look, who's in Ravenous. And, Amy Smart's in the movie. Like I said, of course, William Dafoe. I don't know. It's just kind of about trying to bring down this operation, trying to get him to work with him to help, It's okay. I had a really hard time getting into this. These kind of movies with me are always kind of hit and miss. And I just didn't really love this one. Couldn't really get into it. And the next one from Anchor Bay is Vampire Academy, which I actually saw this in theaters and actually liked it. I sometimes quite often like these kind of movies, the ones that are based on books. I haven't read the books. Hopefully, though, this one continues, because sometimes movies that are based on books like Beautiful Creatures and, The Host, they don't continue, or they may, or who knows. Vampire Academy, I don't know if it's going to continue. I'd like it to, but it's kind of a pain that this happens so much. I know Divergent is going to continue on, but this one was kind of almost like a Mean Girls kind of movie. It's about these two girls that ended up escaping from this boarding school, and this guy has kind of been hunting them down, trying to find them for all this time. They end up getting brought back. The one girl has kind of like this countess blood. To try and explain the full details of this are very complicated to me, but basically what it is though is they get taken back to the school, and there's something peculiar going on, and they're messing around with the one girl that got back. Weird things are happening to the students. Like I said, it's got that kind of Mean Girls vibe mixed with Heathers. Sarah Hyland is in the movie as well. I like this movie. I really enjoyed, I thought it was a pretty cool movie, but it's not an absolute, the all-time greatest movie. Like I said, though, I like these kind of movies. I know sometimes I get, peculiar reactions, but I like I said, I like The Host, I like Divergent. I can't lie. They're kind of movies that are not the kind of movie you would think that I would watch, but I really liked it. It has on here an alternate opening, deleted scenes, and a conversation with the author. Like I said, though, I would like to see a follow-up to this one as well. It's kind of surprising they didn't put Sarah Hyland on the cover of this. The next one, which I just finished watching from Anchor Bay as well, is The Art of Steel. And this movie has got Kurt Russell. It's the first Kurt Russell movie in a long time that I can think of. I think he kind of stopped in 2007, is now coming back and doing more stuff again, but always really liked him in films. And this is him as, it's about in the beginning of the movie, it's this group of these guys stealing this art piece. They end up putting the real piece, when they're checking to see if it's real in this machine, they swap it out, and he ends up getting caught for this, put in jail. I think it's 7 years later, 5 or 7 years later, he comes back working as a stunt man, and they try and get him to put another heist on to rob and steal this this something from this book, and it's kind of about them trying to figure out how they're going to end up stealing this thing, putting together a team. Jay Borchel's in the movie. Matt Dillon's in the movie. It was okay. It's kind of like a movie like Ocean's 11 kind of movie, but I really like Kurt Russell. So Kurt Russell was cool to see him in something again. Like I said, I haven't really seen him in anything since 2007, but I've always loved him and stuff, especially Breakdown and, of course, the Escape from LA and Escape from New York movies. The next one from Magnolia, and this is one that I was really looking forward to watching, and it's a new Elijah Wood film, and it's called The Grand Piano, and this one was absolutely a must watch. This is about Elijah Wood's character who has not played in front of a crowd for 5 years. Last time he played, he had a total slip up, and things did not go wrong trying to perform this piece. And he's coming back for his big kind of return to the to play in front of a crowd, and like the symphony. He's the on the piano, and he's finally back after all this time. He's very nervous about it. He doesn't really want to do it, but he's kind of doing it to try and get to kind of come back and feel better about what happened. And he gets there, opens up his notes, to the music, and he starts playing, and he sees a thing that it says, I have a gun on you, mess up one time, you're dead. And, it's basically about, he leaves, goes back to his dressing room because it says to do that, and he gets an earpiece, and it's kind of him talking to John Cusack's character the entire time, kind of like yelling back at him and things like that, and kind of, it's a tense movie about him performing in front of these people with this gun to his head. And there's a lot of cool things that happen. The coolest aspect of this was Alex Winter, who has not acted in like a feature film. I know he's done things like Ben 10 and some like kids movies that he directed, but this is like the first like serious big movie I've seen him in years. I think it's been 20 years, and it was amazing to see him again, and he was really good. And he doesn't have a gigantic part, but the scenes he's in are great. And looking at him now, he could definitely do a new Bill and Ted. And Joan Cusack was really cool in this as well. I would definitely check this out. It was a really well done movie that like really kind of creeps you out, and taking the idea of kind of really the idea of actually performing in front of people and like acting like it's you're gonna choke, it's like the end of your life or whatever, but it's actually if he does screw up, he is gonna get killed. I really like this. And the next one from Lionsgate is I, Frankenstein 3D. This is the 3D version. And it's, the Aaron Eckhart film, which is kind of a new take on the whole Frankenstein, story. Technically Aaron Eckhart's character is Adam, but they say that in the movie too. But it's pretty much about him, and, he ends up, killing Frankenstein in the beginning, running off, and then these gargoyles are there, but there's also these demons try and kill him. He ends up, getting saved by these gargoyles, and then doesn't want to deal with them. These kind of like these tribe, these gargoyles, which are like, it's got all this kind of stuff going on, but he ends up hiding away for all these years, like hundreds of years, ends up coming back, and when he comes back, the gargoyles are there immediately, and it's, they're trying to, get him to join them. At the same time, the demons that were after him in the beginning are, now modernized. It's a modern time. They're trying to, want to find, Adam to, and the book that he has from Frankenstein to try and reanimate these things. They're trying to basically do what they did to, Frankenstein did to him, bring back people to life. So it's kind of about him, and they're after him and things like that. I liked it, and it was in 3D. And I thought the 3D was pretty good. Like I said, it's not an outstanding, amazing film or anything like that, but it's watchable. I would say that it's definitely one that I would definitely more recommend renting. But I would say though, if you have a 3D TV though, the 3D was pretty good in it. I really do like that Lionsgate puts the 2D and the 3D on the same disc. So like when they have the Blu-ray, it's only in 2D and 3D as it was with the DVD. So it's like you don't have to pay more money for a different edition. And I like that they do that. The next one is another 3D film as well, and it's The Legend of Hercules. And this is, Rennie Harlem's new film. And this is kind of like a 300 movie, like that kind of one. But the only thing about this is it's only PG-13, so like it doesn't really have a lot of blood. And there's kind of some missed opportunities with that aspect because the 3D was really good in this. So if there was blood and stuff like that, I'm sure they would have that coming out at you, things like that. But it was actually one of the better 3D movies I've ever seen because there was so much stuff coming out. They really used that. That's what I really want to talk about most is, the swords are coming out when they're shooting the arrows. They have kind of dust and things going around, coming out of the screen and things like that, and they really use the 3D, because some 3D movies is just kind of like, oh yeah, but this really has a lot of aspects to it. But this is the origin story of Hercules, and it's about, Hercules is fallen in love with this girl, but, Hercules' brother is kind of set to be married to her, like, against her will. Hercules gets, exiled, into slavery, and it's kind of him trying to get back with the girl that he loves. And I thought it was like a pretty good, like I said, though, it has the vibe of like a 300 kind of movie. Rennie Harlan, though, has done some pretty cool movies like Prison, I think the second Die Hard film. So it's pretty well filmed. Like I said, the coolest aspect is the 3D. The next one, this is a limited to 300 edition from Twilight Time of David Lynch's Wild at Heart, which is always a David Lynch one, which I feel like is not talked about as much as some of his other ones. And a pretty cool one that I've liked for a long time. William Dafoe, too, is amazing in this movie. This character with these shaved down, tiny, like baby-like small teeth. And he's so creepy and weird in this movie. And it's Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern, and it's kind of about Nicolas Cage. He's in love with Laura Dern's character, and they end up running away, and the mother hates Nicolas Cage because of something that happens at the beginning of the movie. It's kind of them, and Laura Dern's mother is sending people after them to try and find her and bring her back, and it's like these hitmen and these women. It's very creepy. It's got a vibe of like a twisted Wizard of Oz, and it even refers to that a number of times, and it's kind of David Lynch's take on Wizard of Oz. Really, really cool movie. It has on here an isolated music track, and then the features and things like that were on the old DVD. But definitely check this out. And it's, like I said, get this soon because it's one of those limited edition ones. The next one from Severin Films, there's a remake of this coming out soon too, I think in a month or so. And it's, I'll probably watch it. It looks like they're looks sort of almost like a direct remake. And this is another one I won't want to mention too, but it's Patrick. And it has, I'll talk about that later, but it's basically about this guy in the beginning of the movie that kills his parents. And then years later, he's in this asylum in a coma. This hospital in a coma, it doesn't move. This new nurse comes there to basically be the nurse to take care of Patrick's character, and he was, in this bed, just sort of frozen with his eyes open, and thinks she starts to kind of like him and talking to him, and kind of weird things are starting to happen to people around her. People are, dying, and she's starting to believe that Patrick kind of is controlling things with his mind. And what I want to talk about though on here is the Italian track of this movie has music on here done by Goblin. So if you guys want to switch between the tracks, you can hear their music. It was kind of, I'm not sure exactly how that came about, but for some reason the Italian version, they wanted to have them do the music. But they're really different music. And I actually love the opening song to it on here. It's pretty cool that Severin included both of them, because you don't always see the Italian track, especially when this is Australian film. You don't usually see that happen. Would definitely check this out. I thought this was a really cool one. They did a really good job cleaning this one up as well. The next one from 88 Films is the UK release. And this is a region-free edition as well of Bloodsucking Freaks. It's got a really cool cover underneath. I can't really show it because of the content of it. This is one, though, that I had always wanted to see. First, I want to say they did an amazing job cleaning up this film. The print is really, really good. But the movie's basically about this kind of crazy guy who runs this kind of art kind of like show where he tortures women in front of this kind of weird crowd of people. And, people who are watching it think it's fake. And, of course, these are real women that he's kidnapped. And, he's really torturing and killing them in front of these people. And it's pretty much about him putting on this show. And he wants to kidnap this dancer to make his show the biggest. So he kidnaps this dancer and this critic to write and talk about the upcoming show. It's kind of about that and all the weird things. It's a very gross, peculiar movie, but like I said, I had never watched this before. It was really pretty well produced movie. And it was too bad the guy who played like the head of the show died a year later and was killed, in a break in at his house. So it was kind of a creepy aspect to it. It was like right after this was done. It has a real creepy, weird music too. Definitely check this out. And the next one from Paramount, and I'm so glad this is finally coming out. The last season, season 4 of this show, came out in like 2008. So it's been like 6 years. I think like at least 6 years since the season this has come out. I kind of lost hope. And I'm going to tell you guys, if you like this show and want to see the other ones come out, definitely buy this, to ensure that all the other seasons come out. And it's Happy Days, the complete 5th season. And this is a show that I've always loved, especially, everybody likes the Fonz character. He's the best character in the show. And this season has the episode, which kind of is the most famous episode in show history, because it spawned the term jump the shark. And this has the one when Fonz, the 3-part episode of Fonz going to Hollywood for a screen test because he believes he's going to be a star, and he's there, and in one of the episodes he jumps the shark. And people say that this is when the show kind of takes a turn for the worse, and that's how the jump the shark term came, was from this show, from this episode. And Paramount did a really good job cleaning this up. To me, I think it looks better than I remember the other seasons looking. Really, really good picture quality. This is just such a fun show. They also have the episode in here with Mork, Robin Williams when he comes on the show as a guest. But if you love this show, I would definitely recommend it. It looks absolutely great on DVD. Like I said too, if you guys want them to come out, definitely buy them. The next one from Wild Eye Releasing is Long Live the Dead, which is a kind of a zombie anthology film. And the one short on here I really liked the best was Dweezil, because there's a guy, it was a zombie in it that kind of reminded me of a real, you only saw him real quick, but like a real life Roger Klotz, hey, funny, Roger Klotz from Doug, kind of like a real life him. But they're kind of different stories that all are involved around women characters, female characters telling these stories or things happening to them. Girls at a graveyard with zombies. These 2 girls in a house with the Dweezil character, which I love that name, Dweezil, coming to get them. But it's a really fun horror anthology, all involving zombies. I liked it though. I think it was a pretty fun one. It's a very low budget one, but I had a fun time watching this. The next one from Horizon Films is Hazard Jack, which is kind of about group of these kids that are planning to have a kind of a paintball thing competition, and they for some reason want to have it in this abandoned building, and then kind of go there. And the thing is though that there's not really much paintballing going on, because I don't know if they were not allowed to shoot up the place really with the paintballs, but they get there. And, there's this crazy guy in there who's basically killing them off one by one. And that's essentially what it is. I thought it was okay. I thought it was an interesting watch. Just not absolutely amazing. There was the other one, though, that I talked about in the last update. I don't remember the name offhand. But it was another one with a similar character. And I liked that one a lot more, though. But like I said, it was just kind of just a setting in a kind of old abandoned house and things like that. I didn't like too, they kind of acted like they were in the middle of nowhere, and you could tell that it was just in LA, and they could have screamed and gotten help. That was the only thing that I think they should have shot it differently, so you couldn't tell that they really could have been helped. But it was okay. The next one I want to sing the song for. Como se llamas? What's your name? What's your number? I really, really, really want to know you. That was what I got out of this movie the most, was this song. They played it a lot of times, got kind of obsessed with it, secretly want to download it. Hopefully I can get it on iTunes and listen to it, because I really like the song. And it's Poseidon Rex, and I think this was a sci-fi movie. I'm not 100% sure. And this is from Anderson Digital, and it's basically about this guy who's a treasure hunter, ends up unleashing this gigantic Tyrannosaurus Rex from the waters, and he comes out and it messes his boat up, and these group of these friends are out on a trip, end up finding him and rescuing and taking him in. It's them trying to get back to the treasure, because there's trying to get that, and that's essentially what it is. It's a pretty fun one, the pretty decent effects in it. Like I said though, I really like the song, but that's essentially what it is. It's a sci-fi style movie with this gigantic creature. coming out kind of like a Godzilla kind of thing too. It was a pretty cool one. Like I said, I really love that song though. The next one from Lionsgate is Survival Code, and this is a really hard one to explain. This is in the future, futuristic movie, and like the ice caps have melted, and it's in the middle of like this one area. I think it's like Iceland or something like that, where they have the researches. They still have like gasoline, they have power and things like that there. And it's this guy works in a bar who used to be like a UFC fighter, which I don't know how that really came into play that much, but he's there kind of guarding this thing, and people are always trying to come there and get the things, get things from him and steal things and, kind of rob from him and things like that. And that's essentially what it is. It's a futuristic movie. And it kind of was reminded me of another one of those ones that reminded me of Screamers, but it had nothing to do with Screamers, but it had that kind of vibe to it. That kind of like the way it was filmed and everything that was going on. It had some kind of cool futuristic looks. It kind of reminded me like of Mario Brothers, like the inside and places like that where it was filmed. But that's essentially what it is, though. The next one is a John Malkovich film, Deadly Cold. This is, set in, Serbia, Russia in like the 1980s. And it's, John Malkovich's character who's teaching this kid kind of like the code of Serbia. And kind of like in Serbia, it's part of Russia where the people were kind of swept away, kind of like the slums. And they kind of are almost like prisoners there. And he's kind of teaching them the code to steal and to kind of survive. And it's kind of about him growing up in kind of like this world of crime, but the way that John Malkovich's character is kind of taught him. And John Malkovich has all these tattoos and is real crazy in this movie. It was a pretty cool one, a little hard to follow some of what was going on, but has really, really good settings. There was really good, production of where they shot the movie, and it really did have that feeling. Don't know for sure exactly where they shot it, but really did have that kind of vibe to it. And it's kind of about the kid growing up, and then one of his friends who was away in jail for like 7 years when they were little kids has come back. And when he's come back, things start to get very bad, and he gets involved in this really bad crime stuff going on. But it's a really interesting one, though. The next one from Inception Media is Piggy. And it's about this one kid whose brother is killed, and he's like, set in the UK, in London, and, he's kind of, really despises what has happened, and he's also very afraid of the crime and things like that are going on around him. And this one guy who, says he was friends with his brother when they were younger comes and was like, you want to get revenge on who killed your brother, the street gang, and you want to kill them. And they kind of come together, and he puts on this pig nose, and it's kind of a revenge movie about them going and killing the characters. And the movie's one of those movies where it really started off good in the first like 30 minutes, and then it kind of stalled out and it seemed a little bit too long. It seemed like it was taking too long for things to get going a little bit. But, like I said, though, I think it's worth renting, but it just doesn't really pay off as much as I would like. The next one, this is a pretty interesting one. It's not a great movie or anything, but it's called The Zombinator. And I don't know, the cover, the guy really isn't, he kind of looks like the Terminator, and they kind of make a joke about that. But it's kind of about, like, these people making this documentary on this one girl, who's like a fashion documentary. I will say it's kind of hard to keep the characters straight, because some of them kind of look similar, like the girls and stuff, and you can't remember, is that the one they were making the documentary on or not? But they're making this documentary on her, and then it's like a zombie outbreaks happens when they do it. And they didn't do one thing that I would have when they see this blood on the wall, and like the one stupid guy who's one of the production guys licks the blood. And I thought they were going to make him turn to a zombie, but they didn't. And I don't know why they didn't do that. But then these zombies are coming, and it's kind of them, done found footage style, running off and hiding away. And they meet the Zombinator, the Terminator kind of guy who's kind of like protecting them. It's kind of peculiar. It is definitely very, very peculiar. I won't lie. It's odd and weird and peculiar and strange. And, the Terminator, Zombinator. It was interesting, though. Interesting. I watched all the way through it, though, and liked it in this weird way. Like a peculiar way. It's like hard to stress. You know what I'm talking about. Peculiar. The next one is The Chainsaw Killer, and this is, a Mark Polonia film. And I think this is footage from a movie that he did years back with his brother. and they kind of tie it together with this new footage about this kid trying to find this rare VHS of this movie where the guy killed himself, and it's about him trying to track it down and get it. I really like the stuff with the kid that's trying to get the footage, because they were doing some of him kind of touring his house, and he's got all these arcade games and kind of like movies everywhere. It kind of was a pretty cool. That was the stuff I liked at the best, is showing off his collection of things. But it's essentially what it is them trying to get this movie, and they kind of flash back to old clips and things like that of the movie. And that's pretty much what it was. And the last one, and this one's going to be coming out, soon. I'll let you guys know when the actual releases for the version you can get online and everywhere else. But this is Fat Chance, and it's a pretty cool movie. I have a fun little part in this that I filmed, and it's about this reality show where it's kind of a weight loss reality show. And when they're there, all the contestants are getting killed off one by this kind of guy. And, they're all disappearing little by little. And it's a really fun movie. And I love movies, where it's like a cast of all heavy actors and things like that. Kind of with like a heavyweights kind of vibe to it. I like this. I thought it was some really pretty funny stuff in it. Like I said, I'm going to definitely let you guys know when the release is out you can get. But if you're at conventions, when you see like the director of this, Jim O'Rear and Daniel Emery Taylor, you can get this version, I believe, from them. So anyway, though, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys later. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up.